And call the meeting to order, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners. Today, April the 19th, 2022. Before we get into our business session for today, we do have two special opportunities. The first of which is a proclamation, which we do every year. And this is to honor Law Enforcement Officers Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. It gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about those two events and to spotlight them and to say a few words. And so at this time, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Woody, I think, is going to present the proclamation today on behalf of the board. Yes, you can.
Proclamation, Law Enforcement Officers Week and Officers Peace Memorial Day. Whereas Congress and the President of the United States have designated a National Peace Officers Memorial Day during Law Enforcement Officers Week, and whereas the members of law enforcement agencies of Jackson County play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the county, and whereas members of law enforcement recognize their duty to serve the people of Jackson County by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas during Law Enforcement Officers Week and throughout the year, the County of Jackson recognizes and appreciates the critical contributions and sacrifices made by members of law enforcement at all levels and honors their courage and dedication. Now, therefore, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 15 through 21, 2022 as Law Enforcement Officers Week and May 15th, 2022 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in Jackson County and commend its observance to all citizens. Date, April 19th, 2022. Signed by Thomas McMahon, Chairman.
You've heard the proclamation. Is there a motion to approve it? All right, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, and I know we have several members of our law enforcement community here with us. I'll ask our sheriff, who can sort of be the MC, to speak on behalf of the group and can maybe let us know who all is here today. And then we have some copies of the proclamation we'll be happy to hand out and to share with the agencies that are here. Sheriff?
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for having us today, and we really do appreciate you taking a few minutes just to recognize the hard work the men and women in law enforcement do. It's if you watch the news and keep up with a lot of things, it becomes more and more challenging every day. But unfortunately, we've got people out here that's willing to step up and call to serve their community, and I'm proud to serve with them. But we have several law enforcement agencies here today. I'm just going to ask most of them to come on up. And got Chief Hadley, Silva Police Department, Officer Henson, Western Carolina University, Officer Cookston, Wildlife. Got several from our sheriff's office here. So, come on, Steve. Everybody just real quick, go around the room and introduce yourself to our commissioners.
Chris Hatton, Chief of Police, Silva Police Department. Sergeant Aaron Henson, Western Carolina University Police Department.
Shannon Queen, Sheriff's Office. Steve Davis, Sheriff's Office.
Christy Sims, Sheriff's Office.
Patrick McCoy, Sheriff's Office. Matt White, Sheriff's Office. Andy Parker, Sheriff's Office.
Ryan Cookston, North Carolina Wildlife.
Blake Watson, Sheriff's Office.
Thank you.
We've got these, let's give these to these
Well,
agencies.
is it possible to get a picture?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Well, not quite.
Go ahead, don't forget your pictures.
We have to go through this, so y'all come over there.
I was pushing them up here. I'll make sure I got them all right. Where we looking? Look at me first. There you go. All right.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Feel pretty safe.
You're welcome.
It's a crazy world out there. Not so bad here, but other cities are going crazy right now.
Oh,
We'll make decisions.
No. Okay, at this time, I also want to recognize our sheriff, who is going to make some special recognitions.
Again, Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for having us here. We thought we'd take the opportunity while we was taking a few minutes to recognize law enforcement, just to share with you a little bit about what some of the men and women at the sheriff's office do and the service that they provide to the citizens of our county. Got a lot of men and women work hard at the sheriff's office to get here and serve our citizens. And we want to take just a few minutes to recognize a couple of them today. Unfortunately, one of them couldn't be with us today, but we are excited to have Officer Steve Davis. Here's Steve with us, and we want to take just a few minutes to tell you a little bit about what Steve's done to serve the citizens of this county. I'm going to ask Chief Wyke if he'll come forward and tell you a little bit about Officer Davis. You did tell Steve he had to keep his speech under 30 minutes.
Yes, sir. I've got it wrote out. So I won't forget. I appreciate it. I echo the sheriff's comments. Thanks for letting us piggyback off this event because we want to recognize the good work of our people in the sheriff's office in a public venue, and this is a good opportunity to piggyback off of the day. Steve Davis is here with us, and he brought his family with him as well. Steve's worked for the county for 20 years. He started out, spent 6 years with housekeeping, and came over to the sheriff's office in 2008. Been with the sheriff's office 14 years. Is that right, Steve? Did a little, give him research, good. But Captain McCoy nominated Steve for what we're referring as Medal of Honor in the sheriff's office. It was because of the work that he did on February 22nd of this year. Steve was doing his ordinary duties, just doing his job down here in our detention center, going around and checking on the inmates, doing his hourly rounds. And in the course of doing his ordinary work, which we expect him to do every day, he came across an inmate in our care and custody who was attempting to commit suicide. And just in the moment of time that he encountered this person, he sprung into action. He saved this person's life. He went into the inmate cell. He took that inmate down from the position that he was in, and he administered first aid to him, summoned EMS to the jail, and his actions on that day saved a life. And it's an ordinary task, but it's an extraordinary event because of the way he did it. And every day we ask our people to do these ordinary behaviors, and in a moment's notice, they get thrust into a situation where they're having to respond. But we're thankful for him being committed to his job, committed to his work, committed to caring for these people that are in our care and custody down here in the jail, making sure that they're taken care of. And we felt like his actions on this day deserve special recognition just because of the seriousness that he takes about his duties working for the county. So we're grateful, Steve, for your work. And I know the person that you stepped in and rendered aid to that day is grateful for what you've done as well. And so today, Major Queen, you behind me, if you'll come forward, we've got a plaque recognizing Steve on behalf of the sheriff for his work, and a service award that we want to present to him, and we want to recognize his family is here with him today, and we want them to know what fine work he's doing for the county. So congratulations, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll show these. These are display plaques that we've prepared. The plaque, as you can see, we've put together for him today, and Medal of Honor go with. So, thanks, Steve. If the family wants to come up and make a picture with you.
It's all right if I get a picture?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
When you gonna do that 30-minute speech?
I'm gonna pull this out of the way again. Come on up. Steve, you want to stand in the middle?
Hey there. How are you?
We could just get behind here, is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Can we get in there with her?
This way.
Let me get
Commissioner.
one thing.
Okay.
We got them all in there.
I guess I'm supposed to say cheese. Say cheese.
Thank y'all again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next is the approval of our agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda today?
I would like to add one thing under new business.
Okay.
And it is a request from one of our very dedicated seniors, Bill Crawford, on just a request about the a tombstone. Actually, it's commemorating the Jackson County home, and they would like permission to place it in the Jackson County home cemetery.
Let's do this then.
Okay.
Item 12, which is safety discussions. Today, we'll call that 12A,
Okay.
and then we'll have a 12B will be county home monument.
Monument, yes, thank you, that's,
Are there any other? Just as a note to the board, as you recall, we did not meet last week because of some scheduling conflicts. And so several of those work session topics that we would have talked about in a work session format have been merged into this agenda for today. That doesn't mean that we're going to be voting on them, but it just means that they're here for discussion purposes today to at least get us an opportunity to start discussing some of these. Any other changes? All right, if not,
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
we have a motion to approve the amended agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is our approval of the minutes. We have only one set, the April 5th. After having a chance to review those as distributed by the clerk, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of April 5th as presented.
Okay, have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Chairman's report, one thing I'll mention, I know this, Commissioner Woody will probably make mention of this as well, but there's a lot of roadside pickups been going on with cleaning up the mountains. I know I've been a part of the last week too. So I encourage everyone to find a group to join with or pick up in your own community or however you may choose to be involved and help make a difference here right now in Jackson County before the roadsides get too overgrown, and help make a difference in picking up some of the trash. I can report on a couple of the roads that I've been on, they are in better condition than they were in previous years. Some of them I picked up for several years in a row, and I've been pleased to say that we've not picked up near as much trash this year. At least that's been my observation. I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but in the particular areas that have been in this past week. So, Commissioner Striblin, I'll start with you. Anything?
Yeah, we, the Phil Hare dedication, Commissioner Woody and I attended that together, and it was a good thing. And just also want to say I've kind of got with, is it First Care? Oh, gosh, I drew a blank on the name of the what department it is, but it's with helping people with the driveways where their driveways washed out and they don't have the money to fix it. So I'm kind of getting on the bandwagon of that and helping some of these
Okay,
folks out
that's
with
great.
driveways.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because, some of them I've seen pictures of, and I don't see how they're getting their vehicle up there. And if they had an emergency situation where they needed an ambulance or a fire truck, there's no way one would get up there. So I think it's a pretty good idea for me to help those people out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great cause. Commissioner Jones?
Well, as we see our mountains greening up, I'll reiterate the importance of cleaning up our mountains too. And I will say, I drive by it almost 3-4 times a week on Highway 107. Those pull-offs that Mr. Darnell talked about there on the lake on 107, they are bad. I mean, there's like 6-8 inches potholes. I don't know if that's something that we can contact the DOT and get some gravel in there, or it's something that the county could do, but they are dangerous, and they're very popular spots because it overlooks Lake Linville.
Right.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I will just reiterate what Commissioner McMahon said, that we are in the middle, or just starting actually, the 2-week Cleaning Up the Mountains campaign. We have some great partners that are working with us. There's a dedicated group in Cashers and in Forest Hills, in Tuckasegee, in Little Canada, just to name a few of the places. And we are very pleased with the citizens who are stepping up and taking that responsibility. So as Chairman McMahon said, please join in. Oh, and I did want to say a big thank you to Chad Parker and his staff, Kim Schuler, who are on the front line of getting the supplies out and helping our citizens get the bags, gloves, grabbers, and vests that they need to do a safe job.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes, sir. I want to thank the chairman. He gave me the opportunity to go out and speak in his behalf for our county and our commissioners at the health science opening and this past week. And thanks for the opportunity to do that. I enjoyed that, and it was there's a really good crowd, and there was a lot of very proud people. And if you haven't gone through that facility, you need to. I like Sarah County, but our kids are lucky as they can be to have something like that. And I spoke to the point that you could come through Balsam Gap and see the first house as a first grader there. They could go to school here 12 years in a good public school system, a great community college, and go all the way 5 miles up the road and get their doctorate if that so suited them at Western Carolina University. But that health science building, if you've not seen it, you need to. It's like going into the nicest hospital in America. And that's how these kids are being trained. And we are very lucky to have that. And they are so proud. And Dr. Thomas, it was kind of like Christmas to him. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Adams, County Manager's Report.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I don't have a formal report today. I just have a couple of items to bring to the attention to the board. One item is that the Cooperative Fire Department will be hosting the Western North Carolina Firefighter Association tomorrow at 5:30. I believe most of you should have received an invitation. If not, you are welcome to attend. And it will be at the Coley Fire Department location at 5:30. It's going to be a fairly large event. You're invited to attend. I'm sorry?
Are they going to eat?
Yes,
I would assume so. Yes, sir.
absolutely on the food.
Okay.
Next item, and this somewhat relates to our Health Sciences Center. Some time ago, if you recall, I brought before this board just gave the board information in regards to the Golden Leaf community-based grants initiative. That process did start some time ago. It did require that whoever wished to apply for these grants through Golden Leaf had to come through the county manager's office to be recommended. It was my job to vet projects and make sure that they would be competitive. This is a regional competitive grant process, and we were eligible to receive up to about $1.5 million within our community. Two projects were submitted. One was from Westbridge Vocational, and the other was from Southwestern Community College. And I am glad to announce, and I believe it's publicly been announced through Golden Leaf, that the community college did receive $777,337, and that is to go towards their buying additional equipment for the health sciences building itself, and to also do workforce training. And they're also looking for to eventually lead to a community clinic type operation within that facility. For those of you who toured that facility, this is just an additional boost of monies that will help that facility. And Westbridge basically did receive $628,000. They're expanding, and everybody knows Webster Enterprises. They call themselves Westbridge now. They're expanding their manufacturing space, buying additional equipment, and they will expand 25 jobs, making an average of about $14 an hour. And so, out of those two grants, 1.4 million out of the eligible 1.5 was awarded. So that's very good. And I'm just both of those organizations put a lot of work into the grant process. Golden Leaf Fund is very competitive, and they have a lot of rules associated with them, and you have to have what everybody would like to call capacity to actually receive those funds, keep up with all the bureaucratic paperwork, and then eventually close out the grants. And so these two organizations did a great job of going through all of the steps and hoops and processes in order for them to submit a competitive application and then be awarded. Because this wasn't a given; they were competing regionally with other programs. So it's a nice little bonus or announcement there. And then the final thing, I've given the board a copy of just your upcoming meetings. This is just showing in May and in June. Uh, what I wanted to do is just remind everybody, we are in the middle budget process at this point. Arlene and I are now meeting with all departments in the next couple of weeks. You will be looking at Ms. Fox will also be handing out a summary of budget request to you today. We will update that at the work session on May 10th. I just do want to draw your attention to start going into June. You see June 7th, we do have a public hearing on the budget and our regular meeting. And then you'll see June 9th and 10th, special budget meetings, and we will need those budget meetings. That's something that's part of the budget calendar, and I just wanted to get it back in front of you. We do have several items going on, and we will need that in order to bring back before the board and have discussions and so. So that's really the point. We have our standard meeting on June 14th, and hopefully we'll be looking at an adoption of a budget June 21st. Another reason I'm handing this calendar out today also is we're going to be talking about safety discussions and some requests that were made by the rescue squad and also by Silva Fire Department. And depending upon how this board wishes to proceed forward, it may require some additional meetings, and that's another reason why I try to put this meeting schedule back in front of you. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from our manager?
Thank you.
Anyone signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Anyone here that'd like to speak in informal comments? All right, we have someone. You would just come forward. Make sure you sign up on the sheet on the podium so we can enter it into the official minutes, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak about whatever topic you'd like to speak about.
Okay. My name is Margot Caparelli, and I'm the founder of Equinox Ranch, which is a program for combat veterans in Cullowhee. And we've been transforming the old Cotton Robinson place for about 5 years now, turning the old 4-bedroom house into a 10-bedroom handicapped accessible facility with the help of a lot of people and a lot of companies. And now I just want people to know we are open, and so if there's veterans out there who are suffering with combat trauma, please steer them in our direction. And please, Gail's been talking about coming out for a tour. Please either join her or give us a call and come see it, because I've been there every second of the day and of the time, and I'm always amazed at how great it came out. And sometimes I'm giving a tour to some veterans, and they just start hugging me in the middle of the tour because we've done everything we can to make collective living for a short term. They're just there for a week, as good as possible. And a lot of people in the community are teaching classes in different variety of things. So I just want you to know we're there and we're open.
Very good. Is it a full-time 12-month?
Well, the program itself is 2 1-week sessions. So it's not living, it's not residential, it's just temporary. They come out and they get exposed to things, and then they go home, and we try to find support for them in their communities, and then they come back. And we tried to design a program which is longer, and a lot of programs out there happen for 2 days or a weekend or whatever. And so we really considered, how does change happen in a person's life? And so come out, meet us, spend a week with us, see what you can learn, and then later in the year come back for another week so you can report what worked, what didn't work.
Thank you.
I don't want to be in the...
Let me ask one question.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Hey, ma'am, do you work with our veterans office here?
No.
do you plan to, or is that something that would help you or not?
I tried to do that in the past. It hasn't really gone too far.
We can discuss that later then.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I think you're coming to see the place, right? All right, sounds
Gail
good.
said I was, so I guess I am.
Huh?
Gail said I was.
Oh, well, if Gail says it, it's got to be true.
I guess I
Thank
am.
you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda, and item 1 is the finance report for March 2022. We'll recognize Ms. Fox, our finance officer.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'll go over the highlights for the month of March. The general fund revenues collected to date, $62,307,160. That's 83.59% of budget. The expenditures are at $50,029,209. That's 68.83% of budget. So our revenues at this point are $12,277,951 more than the expenditures. The ad valorem taxes collected is $38,746,534. That's 105.44% of budget. Motor vehicle taxes collected, $1,052,796. That's 71.66% of budget. The prior year taxes collected, $545,350. That's 60.58% of budget. The sales and use tax distribution for March, which was December sales, was $1,716,183. That amounts 17.68% more than we received last year. The Article 46 distribution was $184,093. And the average increase for the fiscal year at the end of March is 15.81% above last year. We received the hold harmless payment for Medicaid. That amount was $1,531,877. That is 90% of the estimated payment of $1,702,085. And that amounts about 49% more than last year. The landfill disposal fees collected, $2,240,496. That's 101.66% of budget. And the prior year disposal fees are $66,739. That's 121.34% of budget.
Ms. Fox, that Medicaid hold harmless, where does that money go? What fund?
It's in general fund. And that's the difference between the sales tax revenue and what the state pays on the Medicaid expenses.
That was part of the Medicaid exchange for sales tax with counties that the state agreed to. They did take on our 5% responsibility of Medicaid costs, but then they also took sales tax revenues from the county, and then they guaranteed to hold counties harmless, meaning that ultimately the sales tax ended up being more than the Medicaid cost, then they would hold us harmless. And so the increase there is due to our increase in sales tax, meaning they've taken a lot more of our sales tax than the 5% Medicaid would have cost us.
Let's see.
The growth revenues, we're tracking all the plan and code enforcement, environmental health, and register deeds are all above budget at this point. We saw a big increase during March in code enforcement and register deeds. The general fund contingency balance, $377,445.31. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the report.
Questions for the report? If not, we do have a budget ordinance amendment.
One general fund budget amendment. The amount is an increase of $934,210.60. That includes the increase for Medicaid hold harmless, North Carolina Department of Public Safety grant, for emergency management. State of North Carolina, additional payments from FEMA reimbursements. North Carolina State University, $300 for 4-H. And then COVID funds for health department at $277,691 for vaccination program, sewage surveillance, school team workforce, ELC school liaison, and advancing equity are the next items. And then a social service adjustment of $2,708.70, and Duke Energy, $22,241.99 for social services. And then reducing what money we've appropriated during the year by in fund balance by $247,936. Also, the appropriation in here for Appalachian Women's Museum, that was the item that you approved on October of 2020. They're now getting ready to do the project.
And that's the sewer link
Yes,
to Twice.
yes.
I do have one question. This sewage surveillance, my understanding that was funded through a grant.
That is a grant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Next, then, we will hear from our tax collector, Ms. Brandy Henson.
Good afternoon. The 2021 taxes collected for the county were $611,719. The delinquent taxes collected were $56,417. The total deposited for March was $700,370.95. And also for the month, there were refunds of $97, overpayment refunds of $1,600.73, and releases of $1,018.39. And the rate at the end of March was 97.71%. Any questions?
Questions, Ms. Henson?
Thank you.
Okay, you've now heard all three items under the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board concerning all the items?
I move that we accept those items as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion concerning these? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds? Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, next is our new business section. And we'll start with item 4, which is a request for a public hearing on May 3rd. And this will be concerning a rezoning request in the Cullowhee Planning District. So Anna Harkins is going to speak to this. Welcome.
Hi. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here today because the Planning Department has received an application from DT Ventures LLC requesting a zoning map amendment for the Cullowhee zoned area for 3264 Old Cullowhee Road and an 850 square foot portion of the adjoining property. Both of those properties are owned by the applicant, and the request is to rezone the subject properties from institutional to commercial. The Cullowhee Planning Council held a public hearing for this rezoning request, and the Jackson County Planning Board heard this application. Both unanimously recommended that the commissioners consider approval for the proposed map amendment. Today, I'm requesting to the Board of Commissioners that they call for a public hearing to consider this map amendment request on May 3rd, 2022 at 5:55 p.m. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Questions from the board members?
Did you say there was a hearing in Cullowhee on this?
Yes, there was a public hearing.
Was there any objections?
No, sir.
Questions? We've heard the request. What's the pleasure of the board concerning the request for the public hearing?
Move we grant the request.
Okay, we have a motion to grant the request. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds? Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Nancy. Next is item 5, the Webster softball field and facilities lease with the Jackson County Board of Education. We'll recognize our Recreation Director, Mr. Rusty Ellis.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Hope everybody's doing well today. In recent past with the budget meeting, we know we talked about the possibly creating a small community park there in Webster community. Meeting with Heather and met with Jake Buchanan, and obviously Heather's met with the Board of Education's attorney as well to draw up a lease. And that's kind of what we're here for today, is to get in front of you, possibly a lease agreement with the Board of Education for the county to lease Webster softball field as well as the facilities around it to create a small community park. There'd be no difference in what we're doing now at Fairview Youth Complex. It'd be the same lease agreement. The lease agreement on this one is for 25 years, which will end on June 30th, 2047. The county would assume all responsibilities, just like it would be at Fairview, taking care of the ball fields, which the county already does. They already do the grass mowing and all the facilities there as well. The only difference would be my park attendants would have the restrooms and the facilities open year-round. Obviously not during wintertime, but they'll be clean, they'll be open, so the public will be able to utilize that facility, utilize the restrooms, the water fountains, just like it would be a normal park for us to have. So any questions on this lease agreement?
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Heather, for drawing this up. Appreciate it.
Any questions? Is the board comfortable taking action on this one today?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anybody object to that? Okay, then, if someone would like to put forward a motion then to enter into this lease agreement, then so do it.
I move that we move forward on the lease agreement with the Jackson County Board of Education for the Webster softball field and facilities.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
And we approved that special playground equipment for this site. Is that?
Not for
They
this
wrote a
time.
grant.
That was through the grant.
That was through a grant?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was through the Lowe's grant.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Well, and I just want to make a comment. I appreciate so much Mr. Ellis and his efforts. There was a real short turnaround on a possibility of this Lowe's grant, and his department got right on it and met the deadline. So we're just hoping they get funded for the special needs equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none then, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Rusty. Next is item 6, a cooperative extension salary request. Rob Hawk is with us today, our extension director, to bring this item before the board.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate y'all allowing us to present this, Chairman and Commissioner, and also the county administration, and getting us on the schedule. So I handed out this sheet. Y'all may have got it electronically as well. But anyway, this is for an extension salary adjustment. So they sent this out in March from HR from the university, College of Agriculture and Life Science. So essentially back in 2019, they did a salary adjustment for the agents, which was granted, and I came here and they got those salaries up where they need to be with a new career ladder. In that first, it explains that in that first paragraph. So now that since COVID's over and the new state budget and HR restrictions have been lifted, they want to implement this career salary change for the county extension directors, myself, and then also the administrative assistants, and those are the COSS, which is the county operations support staff. So what we're doing is, if you look down there on the CDs, they took a formula for the county extension director was identical to what they did in the agents in 2019, and they started with a base salary based on their degree, then made adjustments for years of service and title promotions they received along the way. So that's for the extension directors. And then the COSS below that, they used above mentioned numbers, the starting salaries for the administrative assistants, was 34,424. And they used something similar to treat it as they did the directors and the agents. They looked at the new base salary and then calculated adjustments for years of service. If the new calculated salary was more than the current salary, they awarded an increase. So if the new calculated salary is less than what they're currently making, then no salary adjustments were made. So essentially what that means is on the back sheet, I kind of drew this up and shared it with Dawn and Darlene. And it comes out to, for the extension director myself, $1,242.35. That's the 30% Jackson County match, because I also cover Swain County and they cover the 20% of my salary and the state covers 50%. So Jackson and Swain combined to make 50%. Jackson County being my home county because I spend more time here over a period of the year. Then the match for the administrative assistant is $1,751.32, and that's 50% match with the state. And AA is 50% county, 50% state. So that's what we're requesting.
And this amount that's requested is annually or monthly?
That's annually. Yeah, that's annually. Sure. So they wanted to do this a while back, but they couldn't get to it with COVID-19.
Mr. Adams, and where would this funds come from?
General fund. It would just come out of contingency. It's 1,242.35, which represents the 30% of the director, and then 1,751.32, which is 50% of the raise for the assistant. And this is a standard.
Second thing you said.
It's for the assistant. For what's the title?
The administrative assistant. For the Children's. For the Children's. She's the administrative assistant.
How about the rest of the people working?
We did that 2 years ago with the agents. They've already been, their adjustments have already been made.
Theirs were made, but y'all's were not.
Right. Yeah, they did the agents first because they were having a problem with the agent salaries across the state. So they did those, started in 2019 and completed them in 2020. So then they just now got to the administrative people. So that's what they've done. So
Administrator needs a raise.
I'm just going off the formula. I'm not voting.
Just bringing it Raleigh, aren't you?
I'm bringing Raleigh here. So I'll tell you this, the compression, we've had some administrative people working 22, 23 years, and they were only making a couple of thousand more than someone that was brought on 3 years ago. The compression was just like this. It was outrageous. So, and they're adjusting that now.
Okay, we've heard the request from our extension director to, as this comes from the state, as the state has made modifications to the pay plan. This is a local match, 30% coming from Jackson County. This would come out of our contingency, general fund contingency. So is there a motion to approve this request to come out of general fund contingency?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Dietz has made the motion to fund this.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jones. Any other questions or conversation?
I'd like to thank you, and I was joking with you.
Oh,
You did a great job, and thanks for all those people that worked with you and under you, and they're very important to our county, and they're very helpful many times.
thank you. I agree with you. Good stuff.
Thank you, Commissioner Dietz. I was thinking just a few moments ago, our kids will be, who are very heavily involved in 4-H.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing a trash pickup this week on Scotts Creek Road. I know that's an area that you keep clean too. I said, well, I'll have to tell Commissioner Dietz not to do so much picking up this week.
Throw a little out so they have to. Well, that's great.
Yeah, they're going to be out there this week, and I said, well, I know Morris Dietz picks that up pretty heavily. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sam.
all right, we're ready for the vote. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds.
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much to all y'all.
Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate it.
Next is item 7, Register of Deeds refund. We'll recognize our attorney, Ms. Baker, to highlight this refund request.
Hello. So this is a refund request. You haven't seen one of these in a little while, from Attorney Kim Coward. It's a $20 refund request, so not as big as some of the ones we've seen in the past. But you can see her letter there and the request that she made initially to Chandra, as Register of Deeds, who sent it up to us. But just to cover it here's her affidavit of correction that she had to have on file to show that the $20 in revenue stamps were not supposed to be paid for this deed. And then looking at the deed, if you want a brief explanation, this deed was from the same individuals to themselves, probably to create a tenants by the entireties here, since it looks like they got married maybe after they owned this property. And so there would have been no revenue stamps due, but they put $20 on there initially in error. And so they're asking that it be refunded. And then I showed you again what I usually have up here, the summary from the Register of Deeds manual about the process that needs to go through, which means it needs to come to you for this request. And then if you grant it, I'll work with Darlene to get that refunded to them. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Baker concerning this standard refund request? Would someone like to make a motion concerning this request?
I'll make a motion to approve the refund.
Okay, have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds.
Yes.
Commissioner Woody.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling.
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. Next is item 8. This is an offer to purchase and a contract from Michael Marvin Jennings with companion resolution R22-03.
Yeah, so the next two items are two new offers on our tax foreclosed properties. We're running out of them, so that's a good thing. But this is one, this is a new offer for 1625. You've seen this lot before. This is Lot E, Big Ridge, and this was one of the 8 lots that you had 2 come before you that had multiple lots at one time, and one that was 8 lots. This is one of the ones that he offered to purchase, Clublands LLC, and it went through the upset bid process, and nobody upset bid, so he was a successful bidder. But then during his title search portion, he actually closed on most of those lots, or they were upset and closed, so he actually did pretty well on those. But on this particular one, he chose not to move forward after the title search, and I'll show you why. But it's this one here in orange. We've got so much highlighted now to show what's in different processes that I did this in different colors so you could see the Lot E Big Ridge here. That offer he made was for $3,000. This one is for $1,625. It did not receive any upset bids before. And I'll show you the lot here. This is the lot in that Big Ridge subdivision that is off 107 in the Glenville area, going up Big Ridge from behind the marina. They're pretty far up. This is the lot here. One of these other lots sold recently through the upset bid process. And then I tried to give you a closer view here. And I think, Commissioner Jones, I think that it shows on here, I can't read it from here, but I believe it says $30,000 is the amount that would go back on the tax rolls for this one. The reason the first person that made the offer backed out is this is Lot E here. I just showed the plat to show you that, and this is the inside lot here. But there are road right-of-ways through the subdivision that take up a lot of the buildable spot on this lot, and that's why he chose not to proceed even at the $3,000. Mr. Jennings is aware of this and has seen this, but he's making the offer for $1,625, and it would again go through the upset bid process if you choose to accept his offer. And I can answer any questions on this one.
Any questions for Ms. Baker? Anybody want to hold off on this one and have more time to consider it?
Why so cheap?
This what's
We've owned this one. Again, I can't see the year here. What does that say? Okay, this is a newer one. It's one we have a couple others from this subdivision on here that nobody's made an offer on because this is an abandoned subdivision, and we did have one other lot in here, but it's a better lot, and it did sell through the same process. It was a similar type offer, and I did have a couple upset bids on it, but it's still not too much higher than this. It was still just a few thousand. And so people, it would just be able to take a lot of money to get in there and do anything else as far as get the roads in shape, find septic, find water. It's not an active subdivision, so no one really wants to take these on.
Can you look that map again?
Sure. This is the one that I tried to get a little bit further out so you can see this here. And then this is the one that's just this lot.
Does anyone know where this is at?
You know the marina in Glenville, going up toward 107 and Glenville, and the marina's there on the left. Big Ridge Road comes up behind that, and it goes pretty far up there, and that's where this is that Rabufa subdivision.
I know where Big Ridge Road is.
Yeah.
How far up Big Ridge Road is?
You're still a ways here. You're still pretty good ways from 107. I could not get it in the same.
This is not the same place where they had the lawsuits. And they
Yes. Yes.
And they built houses and they're standing there and been there for about 6 years.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh.
same place, yeah.
That's almost near the church up there.
Yes, it's high up.
It's way up there.
Oh, I know exactly.
Yeah.
What's in there.
Just dump it.
Gain $30,000 back on the tax rolls. You want a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Unless there's someone objects and wants more time.
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the offer as presented.
Which will start the upset bid process.
I'll second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any other question or discussion?
Oh, and it would be to adopt this resolution, and I don't think I scrolled down that far, but here is the
Yeah,
resolution.
that's the resolution that'll be,
Motion to adopt the resolution.
yeah.
R-2203.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. So likewise, item 9 is a very similar request.
It is. This is a new offer. If you may remember going back even prior to those, the two offers with multiple, we had one other, and that was from Neil Hanekom back in the fall. This is him as well. It's just a new company, this Hootla Inc. that he's making the offer on. So he's already purchased a few lots from us. This is for Lot 13. It's on Milksick Cove. We call it Lot 13 Triple C. I've got again in orange here. This is one that we've owned since 2014, and this is the first time I've had anyone show any interest in this lot. I'm not sure why or what it is. I don't know anything about it, but he is making the offer for $1,500 on this particular lot. This is out off Colway Mountain Road. I think I've got it where you can see that. The reason I showed this image here, over here, well, I lost the mouse. Here, well, I can get it back. I'll show you in the far right, in the bottom right corner here. There we go. This is where, this is that Big Cliff, East Big Cliff area where some of the River Rock lots that have come before you recently are. They're located over here. And so I give you that kind of same area. It's on the other side of the mountain here, obviously, but up on pretty far up again off of Colway Mountain Road on the backside there. And then here's the lot up closer itself. I think this one we have valued around 23,000. So I'd put that back on the tax roll for you there and have a resolution if you're ready to proceed. And we'll again go through the upset bid process and go. We will send a letter to the neighboring property owners as we always have been and see if there's any other interest. But this is one that's been a lot of years without anyone having shown interest in it yet.
Any questions about this one? Anyone want to hold off and have more time to consider this one? But sometimes we try to go out and research them and take a look at them and that kind of stuff, but just make sure everybody feels comfortable with voting. Or somebody like to make a motion?
We accept this bid on this particular piece of property, and it's Resolution R22-04.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussions? Any other additional questions? All right, hearing none then, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling? Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries.
Do you want me to leave this here?
Then, as I had indicated when we started the meeting, that we are now getting into some items that would have been on our work session agenda last week, so that this would be an opportunity for sort of transition into a work session mode to have sort of a budget update and have staff give them the opportunity to provide us with some updated numbers and some information that we as commissioners have asked for as we look ahead to these other budget meetings where more definitive decisions will be made.
We have one other item, Mr. Chairman, and that's the bridge naming.
Oh, yes. Is that something for action today, though?
No, I was just going to show what's in there just quickly.
Yeah, okay.
There's no.
Correct. But it was on the work session. That's what point I was making.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
would have took it up in the work session.
So you do, the board does have the information in regards, there is a request to name the bridge in Dillsboro to Walter Wade Wilson Bridge. So what you do is you do have in your packets all the standard information that's required for an NCDOT application. One of the first things, and let me see if I can get to it myself. One of the first items I do want to point out is that the town of Dillsboro is in favor of this, and you do have the resolution of support. So this would require, because it's a municipal, and it's a resolution of support from both the town and the county. And it does behind it have all the standard information that's required for an application. You know, the information for naming a road or naming a bridge is generally the same process. So this is very similar to the Burrell conversation or to the Wolf conversation that we've had in the past. And also another note in here, the family has agreed to pay the $2,000 fee associated with it. So if the board chose to move forward with this, all the elements have been checked off in regards to the application requirement itself. So it's just getting the information in front of you. I would encourage you to do your research, reach out to Town of Dillsboro members if you have any questions. There are also letters of support and things of that nature in this application. Okay.
So unless anyone objects, I'd like for this one, we just carry it over to the next meeting and give us a chance to research it more.
Sure.
Okay. And then right now, so it's online too, so now the public gets to see it and give any feedback to you also. So yes, sir, the next item is in regards to budget update. And I believe Darlene Fox has passed on information to you all, and she'll go over that information.
In the folder.
The yellow folder?
The yellow folder.
Yellow.
We've got several different items to discuss. The first one is capital outlay detail. It's the capital items each department has requested for the budget. There's 5 pages of those. You may have a few extra pages at the end. A few extra blank pages at the end.
Yeah, I can read that.
The amount of the equipment request was $2,084,906.92. And the next packet is capital improvement detail. That's improvements that the departments have requested. The first page is general fund for maintenance. The total of the improvements is $1,105,417.31. The first item is the cashier's area. There's $130,000 included in that request. Then the sheriff and jail is $302,000 included in that request. And then we have various sites and other buildings and areas. That's $673,417.31.
Can I ask a detailed question, or is
Yes.
this not the right time? Oh,
Go ahead.
I was curious if this paving includes at Mark Watson Park. The city, do we own that? You know, it's really bad. The potholes and.
Well, there is on page 3. There's a request to pave the Mark Watson Park out of recreation.
Okay, thank you.
And $250,000.
The decking for the cashier's building inspector's office for the office, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And that's what we looked at, Mr. Adams.
Correct.
And that 25,000, what's that gonna do? What are they gonna do for that deck? Do you know offhand?
Is that the actual, was that a placeholder or was that the actual request that was?
That was the actual request that was submitted.
I'll have to go through. Like I said, we're meeting in the next couple of weeks with all the departments for them to go through and then go through all the details of all of this.
Okay.
Ms. Fox, with the pavement on Mark Watson Park at $250,000, was that bidded out already?
Not yet.
Oh, so that's
It's an estimate.
like a guesstimate?
It is.
I got you. Okay.
Were there any new vehicles in these capital improvements or outlays?
Yes, there are several included. Code enforcement asked for 2 trucks. Maintenance asked for a utility van. Sheriff's Department is their 8th vehicle replacement schedule. Emergency Management asked for a F-250 crew cab pickup. Health Department asked for 2 Ford Escapes to replace 2 trucks.
The reason for asking was thinking about the airport authority's service vehicle that we don't have right now. So if we keep that in mind, if any of those are capable of fulfilling that need, that'd be great.
Okay, I will do that.
So just as a reminder to the board, as we go through this, there's 2, when you talk about vehicles, there's 2 types of vehicles. There's new vehicles that are being requested and then replacement vehicles. So what Darlene and I do is we go through our garage and we go through maintenance and we talk about and we look at vehicles to verify whether or not we have a replacement schedule. We have a 5-year CIP plan, but we go further than that and also check on the vehicle to make sure and check maintenance records to make sure that the vehicle not only is falling within the CIP replacement plan, but it also is in need of replacement itself. And so, yes, Mark, we'll keep in mind once if we get one of those admin vehicles available, that we'll try to look at the airport authority. The big problem we've had for how long now is
We've had vehicles ordered since September. We still haven't received. We received 1 out of the order. That was last week.
Yeah, that's the problem now, isn't it?
So it's
Still don't have to.
They did steal one of the vehicles off a lot in California that we had.
Really?
Yes.
Had we already paid for it?
We hadn't paid for it, but we were waiting on shipment of it.
Yeah.
and they sold it so they couldn't replace it.
So make sure we all understand, somebody we don't know actually stole the car that we had,
Ordered.
PO'd and ordered, yes. So when she says they, we don't know who they is.
We don't know who they are.
Well,
We
let
do
me ask
we do
the
mean
question. And I know our standard policy has been for years that we hold off on fulfilling these capital requests until the audit comes back, which puts us down into December 1st of the year conversation. So we really don't even order these, do we, until that audit comes back? Or do we go ahead now and order them?
We ordered the vehicles with the exception of the sheriff's office after the audit. But if now,
Yeah, we order them when we can find them.
now it's when we can find them. If we can find them now, we would order them.
Because as we get to the tail end of the budget year, when we start looking at budget actuals, what Darlene and I'll do is, if we know that's within replacement, and if we know some of these vehicles, we would go ahead, this would be standard practice, we would go ahead and attempt. In previous years, we would actually be able to order it within this year and get it replaced. So yes, it really, how long has it been? It's really been ordered when you can find it for 2 years. I mean,
Since COVID started.
since COVID started.
And I know we've had to make changes to our requests. We initially requested one type of vehicle, but some of those weren't available, and we've had to swap makes and models.
We have. The sheriff's office right now is replacing some with trucks. And, I mean, we bought Fords, Dodges, and Chevrolets. But it's when the dealer gets them on the lot under state contract.
And we're still attempting to try to get vehicles that can be serviced if we have warranty issues within a relatively shorter distance. So then when you start looking at Chevrolet, Dodges, but I mean, I know we've been looking at Toyotas and looking at other things, but that gets further out. Darlene and I talked about, we definitely try to work with our local vendors and through state contract. But ultimately, we've had to break down and buy what we can get. And then we're still, like I say, we're still trying to keep what we purchased, if we have to ever get it serviced, within, Waynesville, Franklin kind of area, so we don't have to go too far outside of this area to get any type of warranty issues settled.
Correct.
Some of the Fords right now, they've issued the VIN numbers on them, so they're working on the order, but they're still waiting on parts. And he said we could have them before June, possibly, but he couldn't guarantee it. On the capital improvement detail on page 2 is the Conservation Preservation Recreation Fund request. And total $2,000,500.
So this is really going to get back, that we go back to what we're calling the major projects at our budget retreat. The major projects, and then you asked to identify some minor projects. So ultimately, some of those minor projects that we discussed and things of that nature are listed here. And so that's going to be one of those items. Obviously, we can't fund all of this out of our Conservation Preservation Fund. It's really going to need to come back. We'll try to get some of what I would consider minor recreation items that we normally do within any given year. But a lot of these projects will need to come back to the board to make sure you wish to spend fund balance, as we were discussing with you, as far as what we're calling minor projects that run from $500,000 to $1 million plus.
And the splash pad for cashers is on this request too. We've got $51,500 from Greenway that's a total of capital improvements, $3,859,417.
Remind this board, to hang on to these documents, because when I come back and present the recommended budget, I break down the recommended budget very similar to what you're seeing here, recommended personnel, recommended capital, recommended these items, so that you can see at that point, like the next item she's going to mention is requested personnel. You'll be able to see the difference between recommended budget versus what was requested.
What's the sidewalk extension on that, on the cashier's recreation request for 25? Was that what we appropriated for the sidewalk that county did, or?
It's an extension to it. We've already done 125,000.
Library.
So it's an extension to that.
Seems like we did, or Mr. Adams, you had $50,000 in that request from last year for cashiers. Well, this is not anything to do with that, those monies, would it?
No, sir.
This is new money.
Okay. And the extension would be going which direction, do you know? Okay, it's all right.
No, this is what we'll be doing for the next, and that's a good question. That's, any type of questions like that, please come back and ask us, because that's what we're literally, I just got this book, what, yesterday?
Yesterday.
So I've been able to sit down, we're going through detail with each group, and discussing all of this within the next 2 weeks. We'll be in solid meetings all day, every day.
Well, you know, that Visions group is also working on sidewalks in the cashier's area, and
Yes.
Anything that we can do to make that pedestrian walkway safer up there, the more the better.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Any other questions on capital? The next sheet is personnel changes requested. We have one part-time employee requested from the garage, a new position for housekeeping, a reclassification in grounds from a general utility worker 3 to crew leader 1, the sheriff's office front desk senior deputy reclass sergeant, a new position in jail for a detention officer, a new position for studio, a position in social services that has been extended. They requested that they permanent or extended an additional year. Agent asked for some positions, and the total difference in these would be $123,415.27. The next,
I'm sorry, that new
Go ahead.
position for a housekeeper, is that slated for a particular building?
we haven't met with them yet. I'm assuming it's for the Animal Rescue Center.
Yep, it's going to be, so we'll be looking, once that facility opens, we'll be looking for additional for, yeah.
Thank you, yes.
And the next sheet is a summary of the nonprofit grants. The book with all the applications that we have received in it. The total requested is $645,255. That's a 10% increase over last year's funding. There's one new program requested, and that is Rolling Start North of $8,000. It is.
Rolling Start, where are they at?
They're out of Silva.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're actually about 3 retired doctors who refurbish cars. And they are given programs shown they need it to get to work. It's a work ready.
Oh.
So I, normally you have to be invited for this application. I've been meeting with this group for about, off and on, for about a year and a half. They actually do provide vehicles for multiple agencies that the county funds. So like Circles of Hope, Social Services, Mountain Projects, they get a lot of referrals from these agencies that we have partnerships with already. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, they're to a point now where they're ready to request. I still need to sit down and talk to them a little bit more. They're still new as far as being a nonprofit goes and their administrative capabilities, but doing really is what we already fund and other. And so there is potential there for the county to try to assist. Think about like Circles of Hope. If Circles of Hope have 4 or 5 clients, the county could continue that service by working with this group to provide a vehicle. We're already.
Well, in my understanding, all their labor is volunteer, and this money would be used to buy parts, like if they need new brakes or.
So what really needs to happen is, and you'll see when it comes back, when I sit down with them, this administrative conversation with them on how, if the board, first of all, I haven't made any this board, but if I made recommendations to this board to fund this, a lot of my conversations at this point, I partner with them. Put it that way.
And it'd be interesting. So, those they have helped, what are they associated with? It's like how many Circles of Hope has done, and, or DSS? Just kind of give us.
Go in.
They do.
Yeah. So go in your and I'll have that.
Thank you. Very good. We just got this
today.
It's about some time and because it's just so.
Brings up a question that I think a year ago in this had discussions about funding profit requests, and some of the discussion revolved around using recovery funds. And about developing an application, and did we want to do that? Did we want to extend the opportunity for member organizations within the community to submit those requests for funding? Do all this educational process about what we could or could not use funding for. And I don't know where we really stand on some of that. I know there's still some uncertainty as to how we will use all the funds, the remaining funds. Some of it we've earmarked for emergency service programs that benefit the community. Some of the money we have earmarked recently for broadband conversations. But there's still some of that funding left that we'll utilize potentially for other things. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as we look at this, some of this is ongoing annual requests for operational needs. But if there's special requests that any of these organizations have that's built into this request, that would be a one-time, maybe a capital improvement, then that could be something we might want to consider funding out of that other source as a one-time funding. So I'll be interested to read what these requests are for.
The Family Resource Center has asked for some capital improvement money.
Okay. Yeah. What about the here again, like Commissioner Jones just said, we just got these books today, like Appalachian Women's Museum. A lot of times their requests revolve around a porch or a roof
Yeah,
or something
I
like
think
that.
those are.
Those are.
Yeah.
There, we have one too that Awake has actually sent that's above and beyond this. They sent a separate letter to my office that is more of capital, and since it's really renovating the facility that was just donated to them, Phil Hare, that whole process and event that took place. And so there's also just making you aware above and beyond what you see in this application process. There's some what you're discussing here. It's more of a one-time request versus a ongoing expense request.
Yeah, Renee showed me around some of they got a lot of water damage in that building. You wouldn't,
Like from rainwater?
yeah, where those gutters never been cleaned, I guess, and they run over and the door, they actually, some of the entrance doors have rotted all the way through, so they're gonna have to spend some money to do some things they need to do on that.
Okay. Well, that might be something we for sure want to take that request and look at using those recovery funds for.
Okay,
I need to get you that letter and we can put it in this process.
okay. That's all I have. Any other questions?
Any other questions concerning these updated budget numbers?
Just curious, those recovery funds, we've utilized some of those already, and it seems like there's between 3.5 and 4 million left to be expended. Is that about
Correct.
somewhere in that ballpark?
Yes.
So I do want to give one other note that just to put it on the board's radar. We have yet to receive yet to receive the Board of Education's request at this point. And I think we should receive that in the next few days, right?
We should.
Capital request?
Total request.
Total request. So I had mentioned this to the board at our budget retreat and maybe some other meetings that there is going to be a significant request from the Board of Education in regards to a mandate that's come down from the state. And apparently there's a mandate that's come down from the state that's requiring that all non-instructional personnel either make $15 an hour at a minimum or receive a 2.5% pay increase. And that turns out to be more significant than you might think in the sense of cost. And so I do want to just point this out that this may, when I talked about setting up meetings and so forth, this may require at some point, we normally have the Board of Education come before this board during the budget process, but I'm just letting you know this may require a little bit more time than the normal process so that you can go through and vet these requests. And so just putting that on your radar.
Any other questions for Ms. Fox?
Okay.
Thank
you.
All right, next is 12A, safety discussions. Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir. Is everybody good? A break or anything?
Did anybody need a break right now?
I need just a minute, please.
Okay, let's take about a 10-minute recess then. Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Next is item 12A, safety discussions. Here again, this was an item that was supposed to have been on our work session last week, but we merged it into today's meeting agenda just to allow us to have some discussion. So, Mr. Adams, I'll let you go ahead and
Yes, sir.
bring back the information to us.
So I have passed out some information to you in regards to potential funding methodologies in regards to the safety request. But before we jump into that, I'm not going to go verbatim to the request, but what I have about to pull up is going to be what was presented to this board on March 10th. And I just want to remind everybody, it's for you, but it's also for the public, just to give a quick overview of what requests came before this board. So ultimately, I'm going to jump first initially to the Glenville Cashers. Okay. Building request. And so if you go back to your March 10th agenda, your agenda packet, you also can go online and for the public, and they can go back to the March 10th and they can pull all of this information up online. So just a reminder to the board, what was requested and what was provided to the board was the potential location, also just some renditions of the proposed facility itself. And the request before the board for this facility is estimated to be around up to $4.5 million in construction costs. And then there also was an additional request to the board for about $350,000 or so that's reimbursement for their cost up to this point. That's costs they had with the previous contractor for grading and things that was really already expended out of the fund. So again, if you just want to go back to the details, the public can go back and review this at the March 10th meeting. And then the Glenville Cashers Rescue Squad also had the second request from them, and the second request from them is in regards to raises. Just a reminder to the board, obviously you know this, but to the public, Jackson County contracts with Glenville Cashers Rescue Squad to provide EMS services to the southern end of our county. And they basically come back and had a request of approximately $289,000, I believe, in regards to $289,676 to help fund raises that they're looking to provide to their employees. The next item that was discussed at the and we also had Ms. Fox provide to the board. I'm not going to go over just our existing funding that was given out or given to all safety functions in our county. We're not going to go over that. The next request that came before the board is in regards to the Silva Fire Department. The town of Silva has come and requested that fire department go full-time, and there's a specific request to come before the board. So what was provided to the board was a couple of things, and that is the wrong item. There we go. So they did go through, and again, you can go back and review this in your booklets or your March 10th booklet or online. They did provide a summary providing information in regards to the insurance district, in regards to where it's located, going down to talking about their volunteers, their type of service given. And again, they gave us call data as far as when the calls were, the need for paid staff, and then ultimately just a breakdown of their calls and some other information. And again, my goal here is not to go over what's been presented, is to just get this back in front of the board. And then ultimately, if you scroll down, it did talk about cost of additional personnel of $805,000, amount needed from the county $1,171,000. That it doesn't reflect, that's the entire amount. It doesn't take consideration what we're contributing. So the next item that they presented was the actual budget request itself. And this is a detailed line item of the budget. And ultimately, when you scroll to the bottom of that budget, at the end of the day, you'll see that the request itself is actually $805,255, along with $69,300 unfunded. So when you look at the next conversations that we're having, what I'd like to present in front of to this board is what it would take if the board chose to follow through with this request in regards to taxes. And so, again, I'm trying to quickly get us to that point. Does anybody have any comments or questions? We can come back to this later, or is everybody comfortable with us moving forward with the next part of this conversation?
Any questions about where we've been so far to get to where we're at right now? That's what Don's trying to say.
Okay. So,
Refresh our memories.
So what I've handed out to the board is, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen here, is there's one series of papers, about 3 papers that are stapled together, and then there's a 4th paper that's by itself. And let me go ahead and pull this up on the screen. And the reason I wanted to point out the 805,000, 69,300, that's the numbers that you'll see being used in what's being presented to this board. So what I'll do is go back, and what you have in front of you, let's first of all talk about the Silva Fire Department request. And what you have in front of you, if the board chose to move forward with it, is you can see that the Silva personnel request at $805,255. You can see the shortfall of $69,300. So the total request is $874,555, which equates to, under general fund taxation, a little over 3/4 of a penny. So basically, if the board chose to move forward and the board chose to raise general fund taxes to fund this, it would be 3/4 of a penny. Is everybody comfortable understanding that? All right. What you also have included in your packets on the second page is in regards to the EMS rescue request. And so you can see from the EMS rescue, if you recall, earlier in the year, the board approved EMS raises for Harris. And that request, or that amount that was approved, was $237,690. I put that along with the new request from Glenville Cashers of $289,676. And this is for EMS personnel raises. The $4.5 million request for the building, if you look at that at 4.5% over 20 years, that creates a debt service of $343,596. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about previous allocation for building project, $147,687. That is something when the board previously approved the prior project. That was the actual debt service allocated for the project at the time. That was part of the budget that was passed by the board, and the board had looked at taxes to fund several safety items, school and safety items, and part of that tax increase was funding $147,687 to go towards debt payments for the Glenville Cashers Rescue Squad new building. So I want to point that out because in these calculations, I'm removing that. That should be part of already our capacity to be able to fund. Removing that from these calculations. So the overall annual request going into next year, additional request, is $723,275. And that equates to be about 0.6 cents. So it's less than 1 penny on the tax rate, and it's 0.6212. And does anybody got any questions about the 147? I want to make sure we understand why I'm removing that. Now, I would also propose if the board chose to move forward with funding this request, that the $350,000 we've had, is it about 3 years worth of that taxes? Do you know? Yes. All right. So we've had, when you look at our fund balance increases, part of that has been this $147,000 for about 3 years that we have not expended on debt service. So if the board chose to move forward with this new building, I would recommend that we utilize the $147,687. We utilize the savings of that for the last 3 years to pay in one lump sum the $350,000 or so in the request. And then that way, if you recall, he's talking about that could roll over into debt. Well, I wouldn't recommend us debting that because technically we have saved that amount over the last 3 years. Okay.
Can I ask you a question about the wage increase for the Glenville Cashiers Rescue Squad?
Yes, sir.
That 289, does that include the 401K component?
I believe that's everything.
That's everything.
That's everything.
So my understanding then is that if we have you said 3 years times that 147, it would be about $543,061.
Whatever 147, 687 times 3
If
is.
I did my math
Yeah.
correctly,
You have
but
it.
I might not have.
Yeah.
We'll have Darlene fact check that. But so that is money that we have available in the fund balance.
Correct.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is to show that we're being honest and fair to the taxpayer.
Yes.
Okay, is that was part of the tax increase 3 years ago. And so we need to make sure that we utilize those funds that I'm identifying here towards that facility,
Yes.
whatever it may be. And so whatever remains over, we could take off of the debt. We would contribute to this project one way or another. And then the next page that I've provided to the board, wrong thing. Excuse me. Is really just summarizing those two. So all that's done is just collapse the two pieces of paper. It summarizes the tax rate for additional fire rescue services as far as rescue, the 0.6212, and then the total request from Silva, the 0.7512. So between those two requests that were submitted to the county that day, from a general fund taxation needed to fund it, it would be 1.3724. We'd round that around and we'd make that an even, but it's over a penny worth of request that's come before this board. Now, that is assuming that this board wants to look at general fund taxation. To keep things equivalent to the conversation that was held last year in regards to Cullowhee going full-time, there was a discussion about, do you fund it with general fund taxation or do you fund it in a service district? And so I did provide some information. If we looked at the Silva Service District, and if you tried to create a service district that taxed that district only for this request, then the final document, and that was the document that I supplied separately to you, is ultimately just breaking that conversation down into a couple different ways. The first way is the overall request or operations for this, for the Silva Fire Department, is $1,393,933. If we continued funding this in a manner that the towns funded $222,205, so that's a combination of funding from Silva, Webster, Dillsboro, and we've removed that, that would require a service district tax of about 8.7 cents. Now, if you did not want to do it in that manner, then ultimately, if you wanted to fund it all by a service tax, so what would happen is the towns would reduce their cost by $222. Then the overall service tax would be, for that district, would be 10.35 cents. So, Mr. Chairman, there are other ways to talk about funding this. There are multiple ways in regards to funding. I've just given you the initial thought about a general fund tax and also a service district tax specific to the fire department. There are other ways that we can discuss service taxes and things of that nature, but I would need some direction from the board and discussion with the board. And this is where I think I would turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, in regards to, first of all, talking about the need for full-time. And if the board chooses to proceed forward with that, then we need to really get into discussions about how to fund it.
Correct. Okay. And I know Chief Beck and I have had some conversations recently, and he wanted to clarify a point. And I think this is a good time to ask this question. Currently, in the current budget, we have the county has two paid positions that work at the Silva Fire Department. that we fund through the county payroll.
Correct.
And so the request for the 12 staff members at Silva Fire Department in this new request is taking into consideration that those two people that are currently working would become town employees, and that's part of the overall request. Do we save money? Is that shown, the amount that we would save in the current payroll budget? Has that been factored into the cost that's been requested?
Is that in this? Oh, what did she got? Oh, she had to take off.
I just wanted to see if that had been included.
What I would have to do is go look at the, on the basis of this, it may not be. I'd have to go back and look and see it, but it may not be included reducing that amount. That is the total cost, which has those two employees there. And so that could end up reducing that general fund down, that 7.75 down some. Yes, yes.
That'd be worth checking,
Yes, sir.
because I know we do currently have those two positions built into our county payroll budget, and we would be eliminating those two positions if they came online with the
Yes,
fire
sir.
service.
Yes, sir.
So the request for 12 is really just for 10, or is it for 14? I mean, then the end result, okay, so it's just 10 new, yeah, thank you.
Well, actually, yeah, when we go through and look at this, and I go through and look at the 393, and we look at the 69 here, I'll have to go back and look at that and look at what the county is currently funding, okay, for the 1.171. I think that may be included. You see right there what I'm looking at here? Because we're seeing personnel cost right here, and we're seeing paper call, shortfall, loan. Nope, I don't see it in there. Okay, so I'll have to go back and see those two people and see what the costs are.
Okay. Because that is real money that would be deducted.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, as what our manager has asked, first, I think the decision needs to be made is this a request? We'll take, and we can look at each one of these individually. We've already approved the increased funding for the Harris contract, which is in effect now, and those raises has already gone into effect for the Harris EMS contract. Then what we have not approved in its additional consideration is 3 items. Would be the Glenville Cashers Rescue wage increase, the loan to construct a new Glenville Cashers Rescue Squad building, and then the Silva Fire Department request. So those are the 3 additional ones. We've already pretty much made the decision on Harris. So I think before we can even move forward any further is to see if there is a consensus to even, is there a desire to even want to fund, to try to find ways to fund these requests?
Yes, sir.
And so if all of a sudden the board were to say, the majority of the board were to say, no, we don't want to take a look at these requests and fund them in this year's budget, then that's where we would say, well, we don't have any other work to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if we do say we would like to see these funded, then that's where we have to begin to do some more research, because our manager has given us some options here, but as he's indicated, there are other options that we could look at. And I also want to say that for me personally, this is a part of a bigger conversation, because we've also, as he's alluded to today, we know we've got the school system coming with a big request. And I know we've got the swimming pool that's going to be added onto the tax-based request. So this is a big picture, and this is one part of a bigger picture. So that's where we're going to have to really sharpen our pencils and try to figure out, can we afford it? Is it something that is needed? Can we afford it? And if we want to do it, can we make it happen this year? So that's where we're at. What's thoughts from the board members? I can call on you individually, or I can allow y'all just to ask questions, and let's start the process of sort of debating this and at least come to some kind of understanding of where we as a board stand on these.
What about like instead of getting 12 people, give them 6? 6 now, and then maybe 6 more next year, because they do need some help.
Well, I think, and here again, I'll let Chief Beck speak because he's the one that made the request. I do know that you have to have a certain number of members on a shift to be able to function in the way that it's been designed. I know Cashers and Cullowhee both started with eight full-time staff people, so that there's 2 per shift. So here again, that's not a question that I can answer, but it is a question. So,
Yeah.
Chief Beck, would you want to?
Well, really, eight would be average, man, being honest about it, that it would work with.
So eight would be a minimum.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Eight would run a 24/48 shift, and 10 would do the 24/72 shift, which is why we recommended that shift, because we could get the additional personnel without paying the overtime or part-time.
Yeah, what Paige talking about there, it would actually cut down on their overtime, and it really wouldn't be coming a whole lot more money to do that. The cost.
The 10?
Yeah, go with 10 instead of 8.
Interesting to see the savings, the payroll savings.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, is instead of just saying completely no, then give him a little now, and then maybe next year bump that up to where he does get the 12 people that he's asking for.
Who employs these people?
That would be the town of Silva, is that correct?
Correct.
So do you employ them? It'd be just like you was employing somebody that works for the maintenance?
Yes.
Well, yes.
No, are you in on something else? I'm talking to her right now.
Yes.
So is this just like you was hiring somebody for maintenance?
Exactly.
And they'd have to fill out an application, I guess, and you'd have a whole thing they'd have to go through with to meet this application, correct?
Correct.
And then I'd guess you'd have, who decides whether this person that fills out this application gets this job?
The manager.
You. And talking to our chairman, I understand that there's a broad amount of things you have to meet to become a paid fireman. Do you know what those are?
Well, it'd be outlined in the job description.
Where do you get that job description?
We're going through a payroll process and pay and classification plan with the MAPS group right now, and they've provided job descriptions from multiple towns.
Multiple counties?
From towns with paid fire departments.
Okay. One of my concerns are if there's 4 firemen there, Mr. Commissioner, there's that fire department. That if alarm goes off, there's 4 people sitting there that can answer that call. That can go out there and fight fire. That can save lives, can do whatever they need to do. They have the physical training and the mental training and all that to do that. And there should be I would think, a very rigid qualification to do this. It's not keeping paperwork. And Mike's fought a lot of fires and been in a lot of houses fighting them. It takes a lot of stamina, doesn't it, Mr. Chairman?
Correct.
It takes a lot of movement. It takes a lot of being physical fit. It takes strength. I used to be a volunteer fireman. I wouldn't be worth a nickel now other than to watch it burn and put my gear on and look like I was a fireman. These people we hire, I would think, have to be that. Do you think that, Ms. Manager? And so, if we do this, I would like to think that if, on Fireman Appreciation Day, Mr. Chairman, if those 12 people came up here and we stood them across here and recognized them by some means, that they'd be the type of people that could do the job. And if they get themselves in such physical condition that they can't, that didn't look like me, that'd disqualify them.
Well, I'll just say, correct, and I think the conversation you and I have had, and here again, I'm not going to speak for Town of Silva because this is their positions, but other full-time paid fire departments around our country have different hiring criteria. One of which I feel sure would be that you would want firefighters that are state certified, that meet the firefighter certification standards. A lot of departments, I know especially in some of our neighboring counties here in the West, they do have agilities tests where members come in and they have to perform certain physical actions, have to climb a ladder, have to be able to go up and remove a certain amount of weight, like a mannequin or a dummy, and bring it down the ladder, be able to do certain things. There's a test that they have to go through to be hired. And then those tests are performed ever so often on an annual or biannual basis where they judge their physical fitness, and they have to go through fit testing where they can prove that they can wear an air pack and perform the function. So there is a lot more. It is a much more stringent thing to be a full-time paid professional firefighter than it is to be a volunteer on any department. The kind of standards that you have to adhere to as a full-time professional paid firefighter is a much more stringent set of standards than what would be applied to a volunteer, like myself or you or anybody else that serves as a volunteer in this county.
And that would be all 8 of these people if it was 8, or all 10 of these people if it was 10, or all 12 if it was 12.
That would be my understanding. The town would have some type
right?
of standard by which they say, we want these employees to meet these standards. And those employees would have to meet those standards to be able to be eligible to be hired. Would that be a fair assessment of the process?
And that would be good.
7 cents on the dollar, then wouldn't it? Get somebody in there that knows what you're doing, what they're doing. Just like you say, I mean, they're qualified for the job to where if I was to come to you and say, hey, I want to be a volunteer for Quala, I don't know anything about fighting fires. I mean, it's kind of like the old saying, you get what you pay for.
Well, we have a lot of, let me say this, we have a lot of great volunteers in our county right
Well,
now.
yeah, no, I'm not saying, I'm not.
I understand. And I don't want there to be this misperception that because you're a volunteer doesn't mean that you're trained or you're not able to perform the function, because that's not the case. I can speak just for myself, and I don't like to use personal examples, but I had 187 hours of training last year. I went way above and beyond the state standard. I'm physically fit. I'm probably as fit as anybody on our department. I've had the level of training that I need to be able to provide an appropriate response in our community. So I think there's a lot of folks just like me that are all around this county and that serve every day. Now, are there people who are limited? Yes. There are people who have physical limitations. There are people who have training certification limitations, maybe have not been fully certified yet. that may just do limited features on the fire ground. There's some people, and there's plenty of jobs to be done. I've got people in our department that I'll say, I know you can't fight fire interior, but you sure can stand here and help flag traffic, or you can help pull hose, or you can do this or this or this. There are untold number of jobs. So we never have the need to say we don't need volunteers. There's plenty of opportunity for people to serve. And in this case, with this department, even with 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever the magic number comes out to be, there will still be a need for volunteers. There will still be a need for all those people to continue to come on Monday nights and train and to work, because it ain't gonna happen. 4 people ain't gonna put a fire out. You know that, Commissioner Dietz. 4 people might get the trucks there and sort of assess the situation, but it's gonna take those volunteers that would be the ones that actually put the packs on and go in and do a brunt part of the work. And that's the case with Cullowhee, that's the case with Cashers, that's the case. Unless you live in New York City or Charlotte or Asheville or some of these major metropolitan areas where they can afford to pay a full-time crew and have multiple stations respond to multiple alarms, that ain't gonna happen. We're going to still have this combination department where we're going to have to rely on volunteers. But I think the whole reason for us moving these in this direction with these other departments is trying to provide some full-time staff that are there to make these initial responses and to take some of the burden off the volunteers on some of the smaller, lesser calls and those kind of things. So I'll be quiet now, let the rest of y'all give me some more thoughts and opinions. So we've got the request to see, can we go to 8? I mean, that's the option. It would be nice to see the numbers, to see what because it does play into the overtime, being able to provide some part-time people, and sometimes that balances out, and sometimes it's a bigger problem. Other thoughts?
So do you need to see an 8 and a 10 so they can show you the difference in overtime? So that, because I believe I heard you, Mike, that at 8, you would have more overtime, right? 10, you'd have less overtime?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to check also on the county payroll thing. That's the other question.
Yeah, it's what you had. It will reduce down. I set everything up as if we're going to a service district. So this shows you, because you would take existing expenses all out of general fund. So yes, what'll happen is this will reduce potentially down a little bit. The 0.75 would reduce down. So I'll redo those numbers. I looked at everything as if we're transferring back and forth between like a service district. And if you do a service district, then what you would end up doing is reducing the general fund costs, but you still have to put all those costs into the service district. So,
and I think also it's worth mentioning, and here again, I'm not from the math standpoint, in our funding of Cullowhee and our funding of Cashers.
mm-hmm.
We do fund 8 positions, and the amount that we fund for those 2 departments, how does that compare from a dollar standpoint to this request?
Okay.
Overall funding.
Give me 1 second.
Aren't they one of the tax rate increase in that district? That
Well, it was countywide. We increased the countywide. Out of our general fund, we paid for the Cullowhee full-time staff through a general fund tax. Yeah, well, there is, Cashers is the only one that has an individual tax district.
I didn't remember, because I remember we even talked about that becoming a district.
Yeah, but we decided it was easier to just absorb that through the general fund.
So, Brian, I'll have to get the budget for Cullowhee because it's blended in with our overall budget. But the Cashers is 1.79 million.
Okay, 1.7, and then Cullowhee's is 1 point something.
It's 1 point, but it's lower than that. But I'd have to pull the budget.
Well, the point I was going to make is Silva's total request was 1.3. Is that right?
Correct. The total budget is
1.3. So a portion of that, a big portion of that, over 200,000, is funded by the town of Silva and the other municipalities. So in essence, we'd be paying for 8, and then they'd be picking up the tab for the other additional personnel. That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think, this is the new dollars, and then we'd have to set aside what we're already paying to get that total amount. Yeah.
Would that be a fair assessment to say that 4 of the 8, the 8 would come out of the county funds, and then the additional?
Yeah. Yeah, the total request of y'all is less than the total amount of the budget, yes. I don't know off the top of my head, do some math, but.
What other questions, other thoughts? This is a time for us to discuss this and try to figure out.
Well, we've had some discussions, short discussions with Mr. Adams regarding a service district, and nothing's been set in stone, but a service district for rescue squads throughout the county. And part of that question, could you incorporate there'll be a time, and the next fire department is probably going to want to go full-time. It's probably going to be Quala now as that part of the county grows. It might be a while before Boston and Savannah would need to have full-time. I mean, we've got 2 daytime folks at each of those facilities now through the county. And then, so I guess one question is, could you combine the rescue component and the Silva Fire Department into a service district for the county, except for the Cashers area, that fire district?
So, as your county attorney and I have discovered in the past couple of weeks, the answer to your question is not going to be the same answer to if we start running different scenarios about service districts. The answer is going to be based upon the specific circumstances. And I'm going to tell you what. Let's back up and talk about service district in general. Okay, so the only way to do a county service district, okay, there are some restrictions, and jump in if I'm saying this incorrectly. There are some restrictions in regards to putting together a county-wide service district. And basically, due to constitutional issues and other issues, ultimately, the only way to do something of that nature and meet statutory law is to exclude municipalities from that service district. You can't have a single service district that covers everybody. So I just want to point that out to you because now it changes. Let's just talk about rescue, and let's take fire out of the conversation for a second, because throwing fire into this really complicates this conversation, because we've got municipalities involved in funding. Okay, so let's just talk in general terms rescue, and let's get away from fire. So rescue could be 2 districts. If we did a countywide district for rescue EMS, it would have to exclude municipalities. They would not have an option to opt in. That's the only way it would be legal. You could do a north and south rescue EMS district, and then we still have to talk to the municipalities whether or not, when we say join in, it's really a matter of whether or not they pass a resolution that allows the overall taxation to apply to the municipalities themselves. So now you throw in your question, can you throw fire into that? It gets really complicated in regards to the municipalities have a lot of ability to have say in that conversation. Okay. And so we have to get real specific, meaning I'd have to break down every avenue of what you're asking me in order to give you a legal opinion. I'm giving you general terms right now, and throwing together fire and rescue combined, I think would make it too complex. I don't know if we'd be able to do that. I think technically you can set up a district to cover both, but it gets real complicated with municipalities.
My original thought was, I thought, well, what if we could fund the entire fire budget not just Silva Fire Department, but all the other departments, fund the EMS requests, fund the rescue requests. All emergency services would be slid into a service tax district conversation separate from the general fund. We'd reduce the general fund and then have the service tax fund over here that would pay for those things. And it would sort of pull them out of our general fund, but that's the part that we're finding out that we can.
Yeah. Well, let's for now, let's talk. When I start going, I'd prefer to have conversations about having rescue and EMS separate from fire. The only way I would know to do a fire, I mean, if we're doing countywide, is ultimately you would have to set up different service stations, meaning we would have to look at this type of situation for Silva District. We'd have to look at this type of situation we talked about last year for Coley, and then we'd have to keep the district and Cashers the same too. Meaning that's really our only ability. We do a single wide. Now you can do a single wide county fire tax district, but again, it has to exclude the municipalities. Is that a correct?
That's correct. And if it helps to look at it, it's based on North Carolina Constitution requires that we tax our citizens equally. You have to have the same equal tax across the board. An exception to that is a service district, and you can only do a service district if there's no countywide way to do it. But if you're talking countywide, including everything, you can do that by raising the general tax. And that's why, if that helps you think about it that
So,
way.
and that's the reason when we say you exclude the municipalities, then you're really not having a countywide tax. You're having a everything but municipality tax. And then that's the reason it gets complicated. That type of concept would potentially work in the southern end of the county because there is no municipality. But when you start talking about the northern end of the county with multiple municipalities, that gets really complex. You're talking equivalent to it's a very rough estimate, but you're talking about Darlene and I was talking about this about $500 million of value that would be excluded from these conversations. Which then that's not really especially when you start talking about Silva area, then that's not really a fair way to do the taxation. Now, rescue, I can tell you, if you separate rescue out from fire, there's potential there. It really would have to be a northern and southern conversation. There's potential to proceed forward with that type of conversation. We would still need on the northern end to make it truly fair, we would still need the municipalities to participate. Now, it really doesn't impact them. And what I mean by this, participate, it's really them passing a resolution saying that they allow this to occur within the municipality. It does nothing to their budgets. They're not contributing now. They wouldn't send a tax bill out. It would not appear to be their tax. But you still have to they would still have to be willing to participate. I'm talking about from an EMS rescue standpoint. There's potential there. Fire, on the other hand, I honestly think where if we went down that road, I think we have to start looking at individual service districts from the fire side.
That's the thing we've tried to avoid because of the burden that it does place on the taxpayers. I think we've always tried to do what we could to lessen the burden. And so, one of the other questions I remembered coming out of a previous meeting that we had asked for some research on, have y'all been able to come up with fire tax numbers from other neighboring jurisdictions?
Yeah, so this is what was put together by Mr. Forbes, our fire marshal. Now, this is last year's information, okay? But I'll hand this out so that you'll see what other counties are doing. But yes, we do have that. And what they're doing is they're doing versions of what we're talking about here. They have tax districts, fire tax districts. If they go countywide, and reading it, it's countywide, it's a general fund conversation.
Does the town of Silva contribute to the Harris EMS contract? Or do you have your own? So y'all don't spend any monies for EMS? Okay.
So, but make sure we understand.
Ms. Baker, can you explain, Commissioner Woody is wanting to understand why can different fire departments charge different rates and not go back to this equality conversation?
Well, so across the board, as a county, you're supposed to tax equally. An exception to that is a service district. So if you set up a service district, it allows you to do something that's not equal because you're providing a service for that district.
So,
Because I assume this is based on population.
no.
The cost of the service.
So let's talk about, go to the next, but go to Macon County. That's the clearest one. Okay. Look at Macon County. Macon County, if you see Burningtown, that's 10.5 cents. That's equivalent to what we're talking about right here for the Silva Service District. Okay. That's what they're doing in Macon County. Go to Clark's Chapel, that's 8 cents. That's a couple cents less than what we'd be talking about here for the service district. Cowee is 11.4 cents. So I'm just trying to give you comparison to what I'm saying. If we tried to have a single tax in the Silva Fire District, I'm trying to give you a comparison. This is what Macon County has done. They've gone through in each of the areas, and you can see like Highlands is low right there at 3 cents, and that's because the value is there. You see, it's the same thing. We have this conversation now. Like if you look at the cashier's fire tax now, it's less than 3 cents. And Highlands enjoys that also. And then when you do equivalent service down here, it's really about value. It's a little over 10 cents. And so that is what I think that the chairman is mentioning about, that we're trying to avoid the inequities of having 10 cents in one community and 3 cents in another community.
And I know Franklin, help me, Chief Beck, but Franklin has some full-time paid members?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many they have, but
I don't know either.
yeah. And I think Highlands has some full-time paid members. But other than those two, I think the rest of the Macon County departments are all volunteers. So put this into perspective. You got Burningtown Fire Department's all volunteer, and the people who live in that community are paying 10.5 cents on top of the regular county tax just to have a volunteer department. Where in this county, the county subsidizes and pays our volunteer departments, and they don't pay anything above the regular county tax. And we're still, for tax purposes, equal with Macon County on the property tax almost. Yeah. So that's Macon County. What's the other departments?
I think we're we might be a half a cent lower than Macon County, but that does not include this on top of their tax rate. So Burningtown pays, I'll just say the half cent, we're 36, so let's just say Macon County has a 35.5 cent property tax. If you live in Burningtown, you pay that 35.5 plus 10 cents.
10.5.
Or 10.5, right. And so our rate, correct,
46,
yes,
yeah.
sir. And we're at 36 cents, last time I looked in the state. We're tied with Swain County as the second lowest tax millage rate in the state.
Haywood County all has fire districts.
Murphy, that's all.
Do what?
Murphy.
Murphy?
Whatever they do, I'm just off.
Well, I don't know what they do.
So let's talk about service districts a little bit more also. So whether it be fire or rescue, if the board wishes to continue these conversations about it being a potential choice, let's talk about the requirements to establish a service district. The service district would need to be defined. So let's just use Cashers, Glenville, fire department. So we have a current service district, which is basically their fire district. And that was defined. So once it's defined, the Board of Commissioners would have to hold a public hearing. First of all, you'd have to go through and make certain findings based upon statutory requirements. You would have to hold a public hearing. The public hearing requires a week's notice. Got to be at least 1 week, if not further out, notice in the newspaper. But really, what puts us in a time issue is you have to send a mail notice to all individuals in that service district 4 weeks prior to the public hearing. And so ultimately, the timing issue we're running into is if we wish to really consider any version of a service district, whether it be rescue, fire, any version of that, May 10th is our absolute deadline in regards to proceeding. You would have to be in a position to make a final decision May 10th in order to proceed forward with that. And what that would actually end up doing is you would end up holding the public hearing on this issue June 21st, right when you're looking at adopting the budget, and you'd more likely end up adopting the service district right at the last week of this month, week of June. But May 10th, and I can go through and give you the details, but ultimately, because of the mailing requirements, you're talking about the 4-week mailing requirement, I've already researched, I've had conversations with our tax office. I've already gotten quotes on information on what it would take to send out the mailings. Ultimately, I know what kind of lead time we have to give them. So if we're trying to get it postmarked 4 weeks prior to a public hearing occurring on June 21st, then May 10th is your deadline to make a decision on the service district. And
Of course,
with that,
the easiest solution at this point, the easiest solution to fund the request would be to make a adjustment to the overall county general fund tax rate and to modify that rate to provide enough funds to fund the requests. The Harris wage increase for next year, the Glenville cashier's wage increase, the loan, the Silva Fire Department requests, and according to this sheet that they provided us, then that equates to about 1.5, almost $1.6 million in additional revenue needed, which would require a 1.37 cent increase.
and obviously that would reduce by removing because this is in the general fund, removing the two personnel, the cost for those two personnel.
Yeah, the general fund would
General
reduce.
fund. So that rate would reduce whatever that.
And that's the easiest way to do this. Are there other ways? I know we've talked about service districts. We've explored options with individual service districts. Is there any other funding mechanism that could be looked at to pay for these potential services?
The only two I'm aware of is the general fund, what we're talking about here, or a version of a service district. Those are the only two methods that I'm aware of to fund these services. So,
Other thoughts?
I'd like to explore the north-south consideration for the rescue component, because it's almost geographically set up that way.
Okay. And is that what, you have anything broke down on that for the sake of just being able to look at already, north-south on the rescue?
So, not anything to hand. I can give you general conversation. The reality is this is the direction. If the board is very interested in this, that I have to instruct staff to get detailed. What I am basing the information I'm about to give you is based upon utilizing Glenville Cashier's Fire Department service area as the service area, or excuse me, Cashier's Glenville Fire Department. I love how they flip the names. Captured Glenville Fire Department service area as the rescue service area. They do not match exactly. Okay. I've had some research. There is some, you understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't give me the exact value, but really quickly looking at the numbers, I can use the value in the southern end, and then I can subtract that out from the northern. So generally speaking, okay, generally speaking, I'm using percentage breakouts of about 55.5% on the southern end and 44.5% on the northern end. Does everybody understand what I'm saying as far as value goes? It's a simple way to do this because I know what our penny is worth, and it's a simpler way to look at this. Darlene and I sat down and looked at that. So does everybody understand if we're talking about north and south from a rescue standpoint, we're putting about 55.5 on the southern and 44.5 on the northern. All right. So when you do that, amazingly enough, what I also did do is break out. Bear with me. I'm sorry. I did break out the overall cost. Somewhere then. Give me one second. Treats. Oh, right here. So what's interesting about this is if you break out, and this includes all these new costs. Okay? If you break out the northern cost and the southern cost, it's almost dead even. Okay, I'm talking about cost, actual cost, and this is for rescue and EMS. Okay. And EMS, both of them, it's almost dead even. The northern end is about 1.976, and the southern end is 1.967. It is all. It's only, believe it or not, it's only about $10,000 difference in northern and the southern end cost. Okay, and so if you use the percentage breakdown that I just described to you, and again, please remember, I got to verify these values because I'm only doing it based upon the percentage breakdowns, and this is also assuming that the municipalities participate. Now, do you understand what I'm talking about? Page when I'm saying what that really does. It doesn't do anything to your budget. It just allows for this service tax to apply to the towns. For you guys, you don't see a tax bill, it doesn't have your name on it or anything. It just allows us to do that service tax for EMS rescue on the town.
And would the municipalities have to vote to allow that to happen?
They would have to.
There'd be a resolution.
It'd have to be a resolution. So that's assuming all the towns agree. Then ultimately you're talking about for the southern end around a 3.1 or so service tax, and the northern end would be about a 3.8.
So 3-cent millage rate and 3.8.
The 3.1 and 3.8. It's close, and that's using the 55 plus the 44. So I'm trying to give you an idea. Remember now, another thing you got to be cautious on. You're not reducing the general fund tax by that much because this has all these additional costs added in there, right? So if you remove the general fund, costs, it's only reducing at about 2.5 cents. Okay, the reason I'm telling you that is because remember, we're adding a $4.5 million debt to that. We're adding additional costs. So it's not an apples to apples. You're not turning around and reducing the general fund millage rate by that. But it's close still. I mean, that's the reason I'm saying it's interesting when you look at the numbers. If we were very interested in that, what I would really have to do is I'd have to instruct the tax office to sit down and really start breaking down. Because remember what I said, I based this upon current fire districts, not on the rescue districts. And there's some differences there that will change these numbers a little bit. Okay.
Let me switch gears and just talk about fire real quick. So a fire call goes out in Cullowhee. And they have how many guys firemen on duty at one time?
We have 2 paid people there.
24/7. All right, so those 2 paid would go out to that fire. Would Silva send additional staff, paid firemen, to that same call? Yes. Would they? How many would you send? I'm trying to.
Well, depending on time of day, when you had your day staff or night staff, you just had night, probably send a truck and some volunteers, one person.
One person then, okay.
So you don't want to leave it.
And that would be the same for Silva's perspective, for all fire departments, you would send what you could have, one or two, possibly two people plus volunteers to that call outside the municipality. Right.
It would be, you'd include Boston and Savannah in that too.
Correct.
For example, if we were to have a fire event in Silva right now, and our mutual aid agreements state that we supply Silva with a tanker, and we supply Silva with an engine from Balsam. The tanker to provide water shuttle, the engine will go to the water point and establish a water point to supply their trucks with water. So we got 2 trucks that's got to roll out of Balsam Station on any structure fire in Silva. And our 2 paid people there during the day are going to be the 2 people that are going to grab those 2 mandatory trucks and head towards Silva. All the volunteers will make their way from their work, if they can get off, and go to assist.
Cullowhee would be here too.
Cullowhee be here too?
And Qualla would be here also.
And Savannah.
And Savannah.
Correct.
That just emphasizes the importance of that, the mutual aid and potentially the new paid fireman that would be there 24/7. Because right now, there could be multiple options during daytime, because all these fire departments have 2 people there. Nighttime is where you have your issues with mutual aid and the 24/7 Silva Fire Department kind of is, because of its geography, is very pivotal to the success of putting out these fires or emergency needs.
Well, I think we've come to a point where, I mean, we've asked a lot of questions. I think there are some questions that we would like to see some additional numbers and answers to from what I've seen here today. But let me just ask this question, and this is just a very, very vague general consensus. This is not saying absolute, I'm voting today, or I'm giving my full support for it today, but I'm willing to continue the dialogue, and I want to look further at the numbers. I have a general understanding and a general approval of this concept, but I want to look at it further before I make my final decision. And if a board member has absolutely no desire to move forward any further and has already heard enough, then this is where you would say, no, I've got enough information and I don't want to move forward anymore. I need to get a sense, because if there's not consensus among the board that we even want to fund these, and I'm going to do each one of them individually, then staff doesn't need to waste their time doing all this research. But if there is consensus that we do want to continue to look at this and try to find a way to fund it, then that would ask staff, that would empower them to get these additional numbers and to come back and let's make some hard decisions on how do we fund this. Is that fair? So let me just do one of these at a time. Like I said, we've already approved the Harris contract, so that's a done deal. Glenville Cashier's wage increase and loan payment. Martin?
Yes.
You want to continue to
that.
Gail?
I do.
Okay. I do as well, so let's continue that one. The Silva Fire Service. Mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but not 12. I'd like to look at possibly 8.
Okay. But that's part of what they're going to be
But
bringing
that's
back
what-
to us.
yes.
Absolutely.
The 8 and 10.
8 and 10.
8 and 10. 8 and 10.
I've talked to a lot of people, looked into this quite a bit. As much as I could have, no. But I bet I've looked into it more than any of y'all here. And I've talked to some people that are very knowledgeable and learned about this situation, and have been for several years. And surprisingly, you may be surprised how I feel about this. I feel like it's something we need to do. I think it'd be good. But I think this discussion we've had for the last almost hour shows how difficult it is when somebody asks you a request sometimes, that it's not just so easy to just say, yes, let's do that. You got to pay for it. A lot of these things, you pay for it next year too. And then you pay for it the next year after that. And then the next year, there won't raises and stuff, so it's gonna even cost more. So there's a lot to answering this question. And if you do diligent about it, then you'll look at all those things. And we want to charge our taxpayers more money to do this. Well, if we have to, we do. It's for them. And it's important. And so I want us to look at the way we can do this. But I am so much on it. If we do something, do it right, do it first class, and make it something we can all be proud of. And some of these things in some of these fire departments have become political, or believe it or not. Would you believe that? And this shouldn't be what this is about. This should be about an alarm. Really what the whole thing's about is an alarm going off, and there's some people that answers that call that we all know can handle the situation. And Brian's been in these situations. He showed us one the other day where the end of a tree ran all the way through a car. When you show up, you don't know what you're gonna find. You got to have somebody there that can think, that can work, can be quick, and because it just is. So we're gonna do this, I'm sure. But we're gonna do it right, I hope. And we're gonna have to figure out how to pay for it. That's probably too much talk. But that's how I feel about it.
No, that's very, very wise words, and I think we all feel the same way.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I think we all feel the same way. So, Mr. Manager, I think that the consensus is that we want to fund these.
So can I take this one step further in this conversation? All right. So let's break fire and rescue separately in these conversations. So if there's a consensus to move forward with continuing the conversation in regards to the fire department, is there a consensus that we're not interested in a service tax for the fire department as seen right here? Because what that does is help me target in on what information I'm going to bring you. What I think is that I'm hearing is I'm going to bring back additional budgets with we're going to see 12 fire people at the firehouse, 10 and 8, and then I'm going to turn around and put the appropriate general fund tax rate on it, minus the existing employees, so I'll make that correction. And so what you will see is 3 amounts here based upon 8, 10, and 12 employees, and then you'll see 3 proposed general fund tax rates, taking consideration everything we talked about. And so my question is, are we, for the fire operations, what does the board wish to continue any conversations as far as this service tax is concerned?
And I'll go first on that one. Concerning the fire request, I would not want to do the fire district. I would rather find a way to incorporate that into the general fund, because the impact, 2 reasons. Number one, I think we've come to realize, based on conversations that we all have had, that this is, fire department response is more now countywide because of this required mutual aid. We all know that they're responding to other parts of the county, so it's fair for all citizens to help share the cost to make sure all departments are strong. So that's one reason I like it being countywide and coming from the general fund. And the second reason is I think we all are aware that we want to lessen the impact and the burden on our taxpayers. And when you create these special districts and then throw a 10-cent tax out there, if you're already just paying 36 and then you add 10 more, that's a huge tax increase and a burden on especially fixed income folks, our elderly, and anything we can do to lessen that impact, I think the better off we are. So I'm in favor of the general fund approach and not have fire districts.
I'll second that.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay. So then I'd like to take this conference, because this is helping me understand what information I'm going to bring back to you the first meeting in May. And so let's go back and talk about now let's talk about the amount of the additional 723 that we're talking about in regards to new ambulance and rescue expenses.
Personally, I'd rather see it remain general fund as well. Given what you just told us with the difference between where we'd offset the general fund and the new tax, there's not that big of an offset, and I don't think it's worth that conversation and all that work.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so then what you'll see is I'll come back basically with this pretty much same information in regards to the proposed tax, and I'll have revised information for the proposed general fund tax based upon the three scenarios we talked about, also taking off the cost of the 2 employees that we're already funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that y'all want to see?
May 3rd,
That's a lot.
is that the first Tuesday?
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
So that would give, if whatever decision we had, you'd have to the 14th of May to get a letter out.
10th.
10th. So that only gives you,
Yeah, I mean, but you both said that you're away from, if you're not doing a service district, then now you have time to debate. That was really taking a month away from our ability to discuss.
Yes, that's good.
And so,
The question for Chief Beck is now, would you be willing to go to red fire trucks?
Actually, I think it would look better. You got what you got. A lot of money for that.
We've always had a long-running debate about red versus yellow. So.
I personally think red does look better. I think I'll so much paint.
Those old ones do look good, don't they?
What else do you need on this topic? Is there any other items?
not on this topic, no, sir.
Thank you, Paige, and thank you, Chief Beck, for being here to help us.
Thank you.
So much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Don, do you want to talk about the budget calendar while we're on this budget topic?
Oh, yeah. Just hold it. 2 minutes. It's real fast.
They're going to put this up there.
I'm just,
Yeah. You been up there?
Mhm.
Now, what is this?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, I need to take that out.
Yes,
Look at it.
we have to read that. That's the thing we have to read.
I'm ready to buy it.
Well, this will be real fast.
What is it?
Mr. Chairman, if we could go back and revisit the calendars that I've passed out to everyone, based upon some conversations when we took a break, it seems like we may have some conflicts with some of our budget dates. And so I'd like to specifically, at this point, talk about May 19th and 20th, which is a Thursday and Friday. Does everybody see that? May 19th and 20th? You know, that was scheduled to take place at 8:30. I know we have conflicts on those 2 days. If you recall, I said I'm meeting with everybody in the next couple of weeks, and that's when I schedule all these individuals. I'll sit down and I would have scheduled them for this Thursday and Friday. I'm asking whether or not the board can change the 19th and 20th to the 23rd and 24th, which is a Monday and Tuesday.
Actually, that would work out better for me because I usually work doubles on Thursday and Friday. So that would benefit me. Yes, sir.
See, I tried to explain to y'all, it'll be in the morning or Thursday morning when I go to the doctor, and I'll find out when the rest of my treatments are. And they're on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
But it may not even be those, but I'll know Thursday morning, or we can change them right now.
Well, I think we need to change them now so that we can start.
That'll be fine.
Would that work for you to do that Monday and Tuesday of the next week?
It will.
And see, that way, when you go and talk to them, if you would look for the Thursday, Friday for that particular week, but if we go ahead and change it, that'll let me, when I'm meeting with everybody the next couple of weeks, I can go ahead and schedule them for that Monday and Tuesday. Yep.
Okay.
So it was Monday the what again?
23rd.
23rd. And then the Monday the 23rd, and then Tuesday the 24th.
And what time?
8:30. And generally, we try to get done by about noon or so, but noon to 1 o'clock. I'll schedule them. One day will be the major departments. We may have to plan on having another meeting with the Board of Education after that. Then the next day is when I generally bring the nonprofits to you.
Is there other days on that calendar that need to change, or can we wait?
Well, I tell you, if we wanted to wait until you confirm, the other Thursday and Friday is the 9th and the 10th. And if we wanted to go ahead and have the conversation there, I can tell you the only issue about the 9th and the 10th, we are potentially opening bids on June 2nd for the pool. And hopefully everything comes in, knock on wood, the way it's supposed to, but we are going to be required to get something adopted by the 14th. Okay? And so what I mean by that is there's variations in the bids I have between June 2nd and the 14th for me to get it back in front of you to discuss, because the 14th is a deadline that the board will need to pass a resolution regarding the bonding. Okay? And so that's the only thing there's potential I need to meet with y'all that Tuesday and Wednesday if you don't meet the 9th and 10th. And then if you put those meetings off till that next week, just remember what that could do is maybe delay the adoption on the 21st. So it may be worth it just talking about that come May.
Okay.
When we have some more solid
Maybe
dates.
it'd be better just let Boyce get his calendar.
Yeah.
I'll know.
He'll know more.
And then we'll have time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even
Okay.
if those times, I can make that happen.
So Angie, if you would, let's redo this for the May 3rd meeting, and we'll put it on the agenda to discuss with the
So
board.
do we need to take any kind of formal action to change these dates?
I think so. You voted on the budget calendar, so I would request it.
So would someone like to make a motion that we amend the budget calendar to shift the meetings from May 19th to May the 23rd, and to shift the meeting from May 20th to May 24th?
So move.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Anything else under budget right now?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Woody, item 12B, the county home monument.
Yes. One of our treasurers in Jackson County is Bill Crawford, who has served as the head of the Genealogical Society and the Jackson County Historical Society. And he has this monument, which I've passed out a picture of. And this was it was established in 1924, and it was in front of the old county home, which here's a picture of. He gave me these to share with y'all. And he has this monument. He would like to have it erected at the old cemetery, which is above the DOT, and we own that cemetery and maintain it, I believe. The county does. And he has it he's cleaned it up, and what he would like permission is to have Manager Adams ask a couple of the grounds crew to go and help him put it up. He's elderly and is not able to do that. So we would like to, he wanted me to bring it before this board to get permission, your approval to put this up there so it would be preserved in an appropriate location. And these show the county commissioners at that time who built that county home in 1924. So it would be a real nice memorial to those people that live there.
So, do we still have, we've done a little bit of research on that, obviously, I believe our landscaping supervisor, Mr. Cave, is really in charge of helping maintain that area. And we also have a cemetery board, okay, that helps provide oversight to that. And so I would just throw that out. I would be curious if it would be worth having Mr. Cave go out with this gentleman and having a conversation with him and just working out the details of everything.
Yes.
And then seeing if it needs to, I'm not sure if anything needs to be discussed with the cemetery, but I don't know with the cemetery board or not. Do you know?
The entire reason the cemetery board exists is for that cemetery.
Okay.
Randy Cave is actually on that cemetery board. He's aware of this and he definitely willing to help. But I think it would, I mean, I probably would be good for it to go before that board. That is their reason for existing. And then he could probably take it from there. I think he said he's willing to do what he needs to put it out there.
So if it pleases, what I would do is if you can provide contact information, I believe Mr. Cade, get up with this gentleman, get out there, have the conversation, and then take it to the next step of discussing with the cemetery board. And once all that's approved, from a maintenance standpoint, I don't really see where there would be an issue on our end. It's just a matter of just making sure everybody.
As a courtesy, given that board
Yes,
oversees
absolutely.
that cemetery.
Yeah.
And this monument is wanting to be placed in it.
Okay. Well, and Mr. Crawford would like to go with whoever would put it up because he's identified a location which he thought was appropriate and respectful.
Okay.
But, so should I just contact Randy Cabe?
Or let staff
Or-
do that. Let them do it.
Oh, okay.
So if you can forward information or just make the connection with me and this individual.
I will.
And then what I would do is I'd bring in Chad Parker with
Okay.
Randy.
Yes.
And then that way we're going through the chain of the Public Works Director and then Mr. Cave, and then
Okay.
we'll make the connections. And they can go out and meet, and then they can work everything out. And if we get a positive feedback, obviously, from this individual, along with Mr. Cave and the cemetery board and maintenance, and then we'll all be in a good spot to move forward.
Right. I think because the commissioners' names were on it, Mr. Crawford felt it would have to be a commissioner's decision. But it makes sense what you said. So, thank you so much.
And that plaque is no different than any of the bronze plaques that we have in any of our facilities. You know, who built them or are on the boards at those times.
He has had it cleaned and it looks real nice.
Okay. I seen that. Yeah.
Aw. Here, take one of these to her.
Okay, item 13, this is old business. This is the final offer on lots 57, 46 of Phase 2, and then lots 77 and 86 of Phase 4, the River Rock. Recognize Ms. Baker to.
And I'll be really quick on this one. So 12 of the lots, I think I'll let you know, you approved a final offer on 12 of the River Rock lots already. The 12 remaining were still in the upset bid process. And 8 are still now in the upset bid process. But these 4 that we've got in this square here, lot 77, 86, 87, and 46 here have completed their process. At 1888 was the high bid, and you may remember these started at 500. So the 1888 is pretty good. It's the same original bidder, Divine Consulting, who has made this offer, and all I need today to move forward on these 4 is a motion to approve this final offer from the upset bid process.
Someone like to make a motion to approve this final offer?
So move.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling? Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Next is our legislation, item 14. This is a resolution on a statewide workforce board realignment, resolution R22-05. I believe this one is the one that came before us at our previous meeting when Southwest Commission made this request of us. So any
No,
additional?
I would go, if you recall, the request is that last paragraph. You'll show that last paragraph. Basically, the request is to keep our same geographic area. So it does give quite a bit of information, obviously, in the resolution about the workforce board. But at the end of the day, what this resolution is requesting is that the Board of Commissioners for the County of Jackson requests to retain its current designation, geographic boundary, and appointed entities that carry out WIOA programs. In essence, we're wanting to stay with the Region A or the High Country Council on Governments
Okay.
area.
We've heard the request. What's the pleasure of the board concerning this resolution?
I move that we pass this resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Next is item 15, which is the offer to purchase in a contract from Farm Dogs LLC. This is with resolution R22-06. Ms. Baker?
Yes, so Farm Dogs is innovation. The entity that they're using for the offer to purchase the Tuckasegee Mills building. So this is the offer that Ms. Henry's been before you a couple times now and talked about. And they have actually submitted this offer. It is for the $743,970. A couple of things I want to point out. One, that this contract shows $1,000 in earnest money. That is for the contract. Pursuant to North Carolina law, they also have to give us a 5% deposit. That's in the amount of $37,000, and we do have that check. It's just separate from this contract. So we are holding that 5% deposit as well. And that's important to know. If anybody considers upsetting this bid, they would also have to put forth the 5% deposit on the new bid. I included here the tax card information so you could see our recent tax value on this, which is the exact amount that they offered, and that's here. And I think Ms. Henry's in a meeting, but I could be available if you had any questions, or we can try and answer any questions you may have on this. It will go through the upset bid process if you approve the offer, and I think we have that ready to go this week. So it would run 10 days. I'd have to look at the dates. It'd be a Monday in May when that would end the upset bid and could move forward. The resolution is here if you want to move forward on this, and that would get things going, get the upset bid going. And one question I would have for you on this is not a tax foreclosure. So generally in our tax foreclosures, we are automatically sending notice to the surrounding property owners. But I would ask if that is something you want us to do here. It's a little different situation, and it's not a tax foreclosure, so it'd be different. Just would look for some guidance on that if you do move forward.
We're not gonna send the neighbors in, huh?
We can. It's up to you, but this isn't our normal situation.
I don't think there's a need.
That's a lot of money.
Unless they won't put game chickens in our raising.
Okay. Does anybody on the board want to make a motion to accept this offer?
Make that motion.
Okay. I have a motion to accept this offer and to approve the resolution to move forward with the upset bid process. Is there a second? Any other question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next is our appointment section. Item 16 is the ABC Board. I do think, let them give them a chance to get it pulled up here. We have one appointment to make, and that would be Mr. Thomas Albert, whose term expired last year, and he is eligible for reappointment. I think Commissioner Jones has spoken with Mr. Albert. And would you like to put forward a motion?
I put forward a motion to reappoint Tom Albert on the ABC Board.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds? Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Also, it is our responsibility to appoint a chair for the ABC Board. Mr. David Nolan currently is serving as chair. He has 1 year left on his term. And it's my understanding that there is broad support among the ABC Board members for Mr. Nolan to remain as chair. And so with that being said, would someone like to make a motion to reappoint David Nolan for a chair for the next year?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? I'll also just state that this is a joint appointment, so once we take official action today, then the request goes before the town board, and they likewise need to appoint Mr. Nolan as chair, ratify the appointment. Any other comments or questions? If not, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes. And then the final item is item 17, which is the Historic Preservation Commission, and I believe this is one that we carried over at the request of Commissioner Woody. Have you had a chance to have any conversations about this appointment? Okay, well, we'll carry this one over as well.
I'll get on that.
Anybody from the press corps online? Okay. Is there a need for closed session today?
Yes,
Lord have mercy.
it's under,
Did he say that?
his real property.
Real property. So do I have a motion to go into closed session concerning 143-318-11A5?
So move.
If we vote it down, we can't do it. All right, we got a motion. Is there seconds?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.